My name is Rhiannon Adam. I originally was born in Ireland, and I left Ireland when I was 7 years old, and I went sailing around the world on a boat until I was a teenager, which I think has influenced much of my life, including much of my work. Before we went sailing on the boat, my dad gave me a copy of a book called The Mutiny on the Bounty, and in that story, these mutineers from the UK, they decided to seize the ship and go and find this paradise. They ended up settling on this 2 mile by 1 mile lump of rock in the middle of the Pacific. So if you drop a pin halfway between Chile and New Zealand, that is where Pitcairn Island is. It's pretty much as far away from anything as you could hope to be, and now there's fewer than 50 people that live there. I thought one day I'll make that journey and it'll put a lid on my experiences growing up. I kind of came across it again because of the sexual abuse trials that took place in 2004. 8 island men were convicted, which at that time was half of the adult male population of the island. And I thought, okay, I need to make this project. We from Pitcairn Island welcome you today. Pitcairn is several days sail away from the nearest island, and so I was trapped for 96 nights. I knew that I was not coming to paradise, and I think there is always this fine line between utopia and dystopia, or heaven and hell, that is always this knife edge. And so in a way I was attracted by this dichotomy, and this particular island encapsulated so much of that. My first house that I went to was Big Fence, which is why the project is called Big Fence. It belongs to Steve and Olive Christian, and Steve Christian is kind of the most closely related living male descendant of Fletcher Christian, who was the leader of the mutineers. And so in a way, he's like the de facto king of the island. And in the trials, he was mayor at the time, and he actually ended up being convicted himself. And because he was the leader of the island, I suppose, I felt like I needed to get in with him, for want of a better description. And then when I started to have some problems with one particular man on the island, I decided that I wanted to move house, because the man I was having problems with, David, was the nephew of Steve and Olive Christian. So I decided that to protect myself, I would move house. So I then moved in with another side of the island, which is the Warrens. And so there's basically 2 groups on Pitcairn, the Christian family and the Warren family. I mean, that's pretty much it. And in the trials, the Warrens were untouched. The Christians were all the ones who were kind of convicted. The Warrens were really innocent in the whole thing. And it gave me a much rounded view of Pitcairn and how it was experienced by the people living there. Where you live in this very small society where you know everyone, it's better the devil you know. From an early age, you're almost groomed into marriage. If you are a man that needs, a wife, she was living next door, she was kind of the right sort of age, she'll do. And even friendships, you can't choose your friends. You can choose from the people that are there. I think it's very difficult to assimilate into this idea of choice when you come from such a closeted and cloistered world. And there's this codependency on these men. Who are you going to tell that you want to leave? Who is going to help you pack your bags? Who? There is no stealing away in the middle of the night. There is no disappearing without someone knowing about it. Everybody knows your business. So it is kind of a prison. It's impossible. It's a psychological prison and a physical prison. Brenda Christian is Steve Christian's sister. And actually, when he was arrested by his own sister. He was arrested by Brenda. She went off island for a long time and lived in the UK. And in a way, that gave her a way of being able to process the island as an insider, but also as an outsider. So she ended up becoming the island police officer. She's like G.I. Jane. She takes no shit from anyone. She's this like Amazonian woman that could attack you with a spear at any moment. That's how it feels. She's like going up and down the rocks with her bare feet. You can see there's a plaster on her foot. It's because she cut it open when she was fishing. When I actually had to make my report about David, she was the smoother. She would be able to listen to what people were saying about me and kind of put it to bed. So she has a very special place in my heart. This picture is called The Loneliest Child in the World because she's the only child left on the world's most isolated island Brenda Christian spends her mornings delivering Kashana to and from school, and the reason why she does that is so that Kashana doesn't have to walk, because that would open her up to interactions with the island men. So in a strange way, Kashana sort of has this ultimate freedom of being on this island where there are almost no rules, but on the other hand, she's hemmed in by the apparent threat of her neighbours. So the whole time she's always controlled and watched over, and so it's freedom within very, very narrow confines. I hung out with Kashana a lot when I moved up to their house, and I like this image for the fact that she looks like she could be about 40 years old. She's got this facial expression that is far beyond her years. She was only 6 when this was taken. I saw a lot of myself in her, in a way, this kind of precocious child that was very comfortable around adults. We were talking about the future, and she said, yeah, when I grow up, I want to see snow and meet the Queen. And of course, that's never going to happen now. The purpose of using the Polaroid was really to capture this idea of the mythology of the island. That flame is the destruction of the film, and I'd always wanted to draw the parallel between this dying medium and this dying island and the dismantling of paradise, I suppose. That triangle is called Christian's Cave, and it's said that Fletcher Christian, who was the leader of the mutineers, that he would climb up to that cave and he would watch over the fledgling community that he had built. And no one ever really knows what happened to him. His body has never been found, there's no bones. Getting there is really hard, but I used to go up there quite regularly and just kind of survey the scene and think about Fletcher Christian and how the madness must have descended, because I felt like I was going mad too. And somehow the Polaroid film, it just answered that dreamlike haziness in a way that I had dreamed of as well when I was a child reading the book for the first time. Yeah, it's a lie. Chasing utopia, it's impossible. As soon as you find it, you realise it's deeply, deeply flawed. And Pitcairn Island is no exception to that.